morning once again, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Erie online edition. We're so glad that you're here to join us on this wintry Sunday. And it's the tradition of this congregation, one of my favorite traditions, to call the faithful to services with a bell. And since we don't have our regular bell that clangs out from our beautiful building, we do it together as a group. So if you have a bell or some kind of joyful noise maker, I invite you now to unmute yourself and let's call one another to the service. Welcome to this time of community, this time of mindfulness, this time of connection. We welcome you, whoever you are and wherever you come from. And to give us a musical version of that welcome and that greeting is Nancy Reed. Welcome, Nancy. And if you'll please mute yourself, everyone else.
Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And we do absolutely welcome you. Whether you've been here a million times or whether today is your first day, you're welcome here with us. Our opening words this morning are from George Odell in a reading that may be familiar to many of us. For the gift of this day, I'm sorry, that's the chalice lighting. This reading is entitled, We Need One Another. We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in trouble and afraid. We need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves again. We need one another when we would accomplish some great purpose and cannot do it alone. We need one another in the hour of success, when we look for someone to share our triumphs. We need one another in the hour of defeat, when with encouragement we might endure and stand again. We need one another when we come to die and would have gentle hands prepare us for the journey. All our lives we are in need, and others are in need of us. And now Jackson will share Prelude number 1 by Johann Sebastian Bach. Thank you, Jackson. Our chalice lighting, which I shared a little bit of earlier, is by the Reverend Bruce Southworth. And I invite you to light a candle, or if you have a chalice at home and would like to light one as well, please do so. And feel free to say these words as you do along with me. For the gift of this day and for our community of spiritual nurture and compassion, we give thanks. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. May our many sparks meet and merge in communion of heart and soul. Oops. Well, my matches are not cooperating with me these days. I think I need to try a new brand. That happens sometimes, and we just need to persevere, right? There we are. The chalice is lit. I hope yours is too. We have another opening tradition, which is to have someone lead us in the Universal Covenant, proclaiming and affirming our Unitarian Universalist faith with one another. Would someone in the congregation today like to lead us in this Universal Covenant?
I will do that, Reverend Kristina.
Oh, thank you, Michelle.
There are hand motions that most of us know, but one of the newest ones in the last line, and each other. If you bring your hands to the corner of your screen, like so. So our Universal Covenant, we are Unitarian Universalists, a people of open minds, loving hearts, welcoming hands. We care for the earth and each other.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. And this congregation has a unique and specific covenant known as the Bond of Union, which was adopted in 1898 and has been in continuous use. And the words are on your screen. I invite you to say them along with me while staying muted because of the limitations of Zoom. We unite ourselves together for the study and practice of morality and religion, as interpreted by the growing thought and noblest lives of humanity, believing that we may thereby prove helpful one to another and promote the cause of truth, righteousness, and love in the world. May it ever be so. And now is the time for all ages. And as you know, we are discussing loneliness and solitude as themes in this month of January, a month when those things can often hit us pretty hard right after the holidays, but especially during this time of the pandemic and all the things that we needed to change about our lives in order to keep ourselves and one another safe. And my family is no exception to having to make changes and having to adjust and be flexible. I live with my husband, Greg, who's a college professor, and my son, Raphael, who's 10 and goes to virtual school now. And we also have a pandemic puppy that we got in May to console us during this time of being far away from many of our friends and loved ones. And his name is Onyx, a Labradoodle named Onyx. So that's my family. And my son, Raphael, was, I think early on in the pandemic, he was having a pretty good time with things. He was enjoying being in his room and having lots of unstructured time, playing with his toys, and not having to get up quite as early in the morning to get ready for school, being able to wear pajama bottoms sometimes to school. Don't tell anybody, don't tell his teachers. But sometimes he does, because you can't tell on Zoom if he's wearing pajama bottoms. In fact, you don't know whether I'm wearing pajama bottoms right now, right? So at first I think he was having an okay time. And but lately it's been getting more and more difficult, right? It's been a year now of having to do these new ways of being together and going to school. And so a few days ago, he had a really, really tough day. And he was very upset. And he said, and by the way, I asked him if I could share this story with you. And he said, yes. He was upset and he said, I never get to see my friends anymore. And it's like, I don't even get to be a kid. And he was really struggling. And so my husband and I kind of listened to him for, and we encouraged him to share his feelings, even though it was difficult to hear how much he was struggling. But after that, he and I made a little list of things that he can do when he's feeling lonely and sad. And so he gave me permission to share his list. And I think we're going to put this up somewhere around the house where he'll see it pretty often, maybe in his room somewhere or in the bathroom for when he's brushing his teeth. And maybe it will help all of us remember that there are things that we can do when we're feeling lonely. So here's his list. His favorite things to do when he's feeling sad are talking to his friend Henry on Messenger Kids, which is like a Facebook instant messaging thing that the kids all are on somehow. They all just sprang up on instant messenger. Unfortunately, that uses my phone a lot, but hey, if it brings him joy and he and Henry can connect, that's great. Playing a video game with his friend Ben online. They do that for hours sometimes. Interacting with our dog Onyx, who's always playful and up for some fun. Listening to musicals in his room, dancing and singing. He does that a lot now. Doing yoga with mom. We do online yoga together. Going for a walk, getting outside, getting some fresh air. Playing board games with dad, taking a little break from schoolwork. And going to ballet class. Now, some of these can be done on the spur of the moment. Some of them, obviously, ballet class can't. But it's sometimes just nice to get a little lift from thinking about ballet class, even if it's not today, maybe it's tomorrow and you have that to look forward to. So I invite you sometime to make a list of the things that bring you joy or the ways that you can connect when you're feeling isolated and lonely, as we all have been at different times during this pandemic. And put it somewhere where you can see it every day and remind yourself that you do have some options that can give you some connection and some joy, even in the middle of these really difficult times. And no matter how old you are, I think that can really help during these days of pandemic. So I invite you to do that and maybe even share it with us if you would like sometime. Thanks. Thanks for listening. And may we all find ways to connect and feel loved and cared for during this time. Now it's time for another practice, a practice of generosity, of sharing with our community what we have. I invite you to make a donation to UU Erie, you can mail a check to the address that's on your screen. You can also donate online by going to uuerie.org/donate. Please do let us know if your payment is towards your pledge. And we will have another wonderful piece by Jackson while we are contemplating generosity and what we have to share with this wonderful community. Thank you, Jackson, for sharing your gifts with this community. And thanks to all who keep this community going with their generosity and their care. As I mentioned, we've been talking a lot about loneliness, solitude during January. And last Tuesday, I had a great opportunity to think about how that works in my life. I was on a Zoom call with about 30 other first-year ministers, and we were getting ready to go into our breakout rooms when I suddenly got bounced off the call. I tried to log back in. I got a message, please wait. The host will let you into the meeting soon. Maybe you've all experienced this. And I waited and I waited and I waited for about 30 minutes. And it was interesting to see how my reactions went from a casual, oh dear, this is annoying, I'll just log right back in, to feelings of total abandonment in a very short period of time. I imagined all the others, all sharing deep check-in time with each other, enjoying that bonding with colleagues and getting support. I needed this too. I was being robbed of that opportunity. Did the universe just have it in for me? Did I have a big kick me sign on my head? How I hate technology. If this darn pandemic hadn't happened, we'd all be in Boston, happily bonding together in person for this event, learning to be together in a physical space and going out for dinner in the evenings, having a real first-year minister's seminar. Fear of missing out began to set in. I desperately sent texts to all the people I knew who were on the call, asking them to alert the hosts that I was waiting in the waiting room, but nothing. And then something interesting happened. Perhaps because I'd been doing some reading on loneliness this week, preparing for this service, I thought, maybe this is actually an opportunity. Now, later in the week, my 10-year-old son, Raphael, had told me that he wanted to go for a walk with me to take the dog, as we do most nights. But at the time, he was playing a video game with his friend online. I asked him to get off so that we could walk the dog before it got dark. "I know," he growled. "Just a minute." I could clearly see how this was going to go, partly because it had gone that way several other nights in the month. I was either going to nag him until he grudgingly signed off with his friend, or else I'd just leave in a resentful huff, feeling lonely, rejected, and righteously indignant. And there were really some deeper issues going on here too. As my son gets more and more involved with his friends and less with me and with his parents, I'm challenged to practice the art of letting go with grace and generosity. And I sometimes rise to that challenge. Each of us has so many opportunities every week to come face to face with this existential dilemma of loneliness. And these opportunities have only increased for most of us as our lives have taken on an entirely different texture as the result of living through this modern pandemic. Each of us has different challenges to navigate. And one thing that doesn't help is to compare ourselves to one another, either positively, as in, "Oh, I shouldn't complain because other people have it so much worse than I do," or, "If I could only have the life that so-and-so is living, I'd be so much happier." As for myself, I find it strange to be facing loneliness, living as I do, with a husband, a child, and a pet who are all carrying out their lives 24/7 in a small house that seems stuffed to the gills with people and things. Of course, it doesn't help me at all that I'm what's called an ambivert, a combination of an introvert and an extrovert, craving both connection and solitary contemplation at different times. Now, for each of us, we want the kind of company that we want, when we want, and how we want. And when we don't get it, the lack of fit between our desires and our reality is something that we often label loneliness. After all, we can be lonely at a crowded party, in a small house with a lot of people and animals in it, or in the most intimate moments with our loved ones. So it's not the situation really, but the feeling that arises from it that seems to be the essence of loneliness, and that seems to call for extraordinary self-compassion, extraordinary grace. We have a special treat right now. Carla Fisher is going to sing for us, Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, we have already come. 'Twas grace has brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see.
Thank you, Carla. How beautiful. Thank you for those words of comfort and grace, for that beautiful music. What a gift. Now, speaking of loneliness, of brokenness, and in describing some passing moments in my life, I don't want to downplay the way that deep loneliness can sometimes be a part of grief, a part of loss. When important relationships end, when we lose those that we love, or when circumstances make it hard to connect with our network of family and friends, a deep emptiness can ensue. Emptiness that is much more than a passing feeling of discontentment. And it is our job at such times to honor and support and care for ourselves, to give ourselves grace. And as a congregation, it's our job to support and care for the folks that are going through life passages like these. This congregation does a great job of taking care of each other. And there are so many ways that we need each other this year more than ever. Not only because we're separated physically, not only because many of us have lost loved ones in this past year, not only because some beloved congregational members have been lost, and not all just because we're all growing older together. Needing one another is not anything special or unusual. We're all in need, all of our lives, just as our opening reading said. And part of my job as your minister is to notice and to reach out and to support you when you're going through any kind of difficulty. It's not always easy, though, to know just who might need that support, especially now that I am doing ministry from a distance. As most of you know, I am currently sitting in Buffalo, New York, and living in Buffalo while doing ministry with you in Erie. And then too, it might feel weird for you talking to a minister who feels more really like a stranger that you only see on the screen of your computer at times. And that is where our new pastoral care associates come in. We have formed a team of pastoral care associates, And you might think of them as an extension of the pastoral care that flows from the minister to the congregation. Or you might also think of them as a more formal, structured embodiment of the interconnected web of love and care that already exists among members of this congregation. We are meeting on a monthly basis as a team, and our specific purpose is to support and accompany people who are going through a difficult or a challenging time in their lives. Really, anyone who needs a little bit or wants a little bit of extra support. And so I want to introduce our two pastoral care associates, Mary Beth McCarthy. Mary Beth, if you're here, if you could unmute and just say hello. There you are, I see you.
Hi, everybody. Good morning.
And Christine Linky. Christine, could you say hello?
Good morning, everyone. Hi.
Now, how would you get connected to these fine folks? Well, sometimes we might note if you or someone has shared a concern that week in the Joys and Concerns section of the Sunday service. Or other times, you are welcome to reach out yourself and ask for support, which is a very healthy and appropriate and strong thing to do. And you're always welcome to contact any of us if you would like some extra support for whatever you're going through. But sometimes I know that it's hard to make a call like that, even if you really would like some extra support. And it seems that when we're most in need of care, we're often most unable to ask for it. So another thing you can do is if you know someone in the congregation that's having a hard time, you can ask them, ask that person if they would like a call from the pastoral support team. And then if they say that yes, they would, you can ask them if it would be okay for you to contact the support team on their behalf. And then you can go ahead, if they say yes, and let us know. And we will be happy to reach out to that person. Now, we need to talk just a little bit about confidentiality, because when you're sharing things with people, you want to know that it's not going to be shared with just any old person. And we want you to know that the pastoral care team holds whatever you share with us as confidential information, and we don't share it beyond the team. The only exception to that confidentiality policy would be if you were to reveal to us that you or a child or a vulnerable adult were in imminent danger or were contemplating hurting yourself or others. So in these cases, there are laws we would have to follow in order to keep people safe from harm. But in all but these extraordinary circumstances, we adhere to confidentiality and we don't share information beyond the pastoral care team. The pastoral care associates are wonderful people who are called to share their love for the congregation in this way. And they are volunteers. They are here to accompany you, to listen, and provide support. They are not professional social workers. They are not miracle workers. None of us are. Or they are not professional ministers, though they are in the process of receiving special training about how to accompany people as pastoral caregivers. They are congregants like you who feel called to walk with you when you need someone by your side. And they and I, as your minister, are here for you. Thank you, Christine and Mary Beth, for being willing to do this service, this ministry, and this gift of love. And the pastoral care team wishes you wellness and safety during this time. And I would like to just sing a very quick little blessing for you. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole. May we be whole. Pema Chodron, the Buddhist leader and writer, writes about this thing called cool loneliness. And I find her concept very helpful. Cool loneliness, she says, is a way of responding to that basic feeling of dissatisfaction that arises in us when there's a bad fit between the amount of company that we have, or the kind of company that we have, and the company that we would like to have in any given moment. Now, in Pema's concept of cool loneliness, you don't reach immediately for something to relieve that loneliness, which is kind of counter to the story that I shared during the Time for All Ages. And I believe that there are times when it's right to reach out for something that can help us. And then there are other times maybe when we can tolerate a little bit of discomfort to kind of ask ourselves, what is this loneliness about? In Pema's advice, you observe yourself and you get curious about the feelings that you're experiencing. You ask yourself, what is this thing I'm labeling loneliness? And what is it maybe trying to teach me? Do I need to push it away right now? Or could loneliness itself be my companion in this moment? So in my technological mishap earlier this week, when I got stuck in a Zoom waiting room, it actually did not become an emotional meltdown for me, which it easily could have, because I am not a big fan of technology sometimes, and I do get anxious when things go wrong. But I managed, after a while, to restore my equanimity rather than getting upset and getting mad at my laptop, getting mad at Zoom, getting mad at the hosts of the seminar. Instead, I kept observing myself, and eventually I realized that being in the waiting room actually was possibly the answer to a request I had made of the universe for some more time to myself. Maybe it wasn't in the way that I had asked for it or the way I envisioned it, but I realized it could be a rather pleasant experience if I allowed it to be. So I picked up a nearby book of poetry and I happily immersed myself in it for about 20 minutes until I was finally let back into the main Zoom room and rejoined the seminar. In resolving my dilemma about walking the dog with my son, in the end, I decided to skip the habitual resentment and the usual script and simply embrace and enjoy walking the dog on my own that night. Once we left the house, it was really easy to enter a place of spaciousness and cool solitude and ease. And I remembered I've been claiming for months now that I never have any time to myself. And here I was, enjoying a moment of solitude and winter beauty. Now, these small shifts in our awareness, when we compassionately view ourselves, give ourselves a little grace, and we ask curious questions with love, they can be so freeing. This is not to say that we can simply think ourselves out of sadness and grief and pervasive loneliness. This is not to say that there is something wrong with us if we don't blithely let go of the past and the way things used to be. In fact, Pema Chodron advocates that we do acknowledge and explore these feelings rather than just covering them over with distractions. Only then, she says, can we contemplate letting them go with grace when and if we're ready. As we continue to explore themes of loneliness and solitude this month, I invite you to observe your own feelings as they enter and leave your consciousness. Is your loneliness a passing feeling, or is it something that has settled more deeply around your heart? Could you sit with it for a moment and ask it questions? Or is it important to get some relief, whether through finding your own sources of joy and connection, through calling a person that you can talk to, or with exploring solitude further in a spirit of cool loneliness? Only you have the answer to these questions, and there's no right or wrong here. Only what's right or wrong for you at any given moment. The truth is that we're likely to go on with this pandemic way of living for at least another season or two. So we might as well use this time to understand and learn to care for ourselves as gently, lovingly, compassionately, and effectively as possible. May we all continue to care for ourselves and each other in a spirit of loving community as we navigate these tides of our times and our lives together. And now I invite you into a time of sharing of joys and concerns. The way that we do that is by sharing in the chat a few words or phrase about how you're feeling. There is no need to respond to what each other are sharing. We will respond as a community. And afterwards, we'll take a moment of silence to honor the joys and sorrows and concerns that are held in the silence of our hearts.
I have to switch this song because I don't have a pedal. No pun intended.
A pedal, so you can't play the pedal. Okay. Thank you to all who shared what is on your heart this morning. In the chat, I saw messages of relief and joy at the political turn that our nation has taken. Messages of appreciation for Carla's beautiful singing and for Jackson's beautiful playing. Messages of emotional struggle and acknowledgement of loneliness and cares. Worry, anxiety about vaccines and health situations. Excitement at new educational ventures and new work situations, and gratitude for this loving community. For all of those things and for all that we did not share but remains in the silence of our hearts, we hold you in love and in care. And closing words today are by the Reverend Linda Barnes. We are staying home. Love has never asked us of this before, but we're staying home, and this is our gift to humanity. Let us wish each other well. For those staying home alone, I offer you this blessing. May you grow a deeper understanding of your own good worth. Dear one, leaven the atonement, the at oneness with gentle care, for this too shall pass. May you be blessed with a peace and a serenity. May you find the courage to reach out, to hear another's voice, and to remember others need you too. May you be well. For those staying at home together, I offer you this blessing. May you find moments of patience and grace in your relations. May you offer each other enough time apart, reassurance and space enough to cry, to safely rage, for this too shall pass. And then let peace come again into your home. May you see one another's whole selves as a gift. May you be well. For all of us working from home, I offer you this blessing. May you remember to take breaks. May you find the means to relish your imperfection and the imperfection of others as evidence of our shared humanity. You are enough, even when there isn't enough time or space. Make order in your days and then let it go. May you be well. For those staying at home with children, I offer you this blessing. May you find humor and compassion in your days. There will be learning of a different kind, deeper, no doubt, unexpected for sure. May there be patience and forgiveness again and again and again, for this too shall pass. May you all remember the deep love that brought your family into being. May there be peace and understanding in your home. May you be well. May we be well. May it be so. If you've lit a candle or a chalice this morning, I invite you to extinguish it to close our service. And you're welcome to say these words along with me as I extinguish the chalice that I hold here. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you. And Jackson will share a final musical offering to close our service. And we invite you to stay for our virtual coffee hour.